In 2023, I read my first Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises. I picked this book because it was his first one, and I loved it and decided to read one Hemingway per year for the foreseeable future. In 2024, I picked For Whom the Bell Tolls because I'm a big fan of Metallica and The Wheel of Time. If you know, you know. For 2025, I did a little more research. I'm like, what is the best Hemingway book out there? And for a lot of people, it is A Farewell to Arms. And so I put this down very recently. And how does this stack up in my mind to these other two books? Let's discuss. I'm Captain Mike. This is Whiskey and Literature. I talk about whiskey and books. And if it's Sunday, it's books. Today it is Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. He was an American short story author, novelist, and journalist. Born in 1899, he committed suicide in Idaho in 1961. As a total side note, there is a bar in St. George, Utah that serves the Hemingway shot, and it is served in a shotgun shell. Maybe it's too soon. I don't know. You can judge. Hemingway was known for his lean and sparse writing style. Importantly for this book, he was wounded as an ambulance driver in World War I. Earlier this year, Mrs. Captain and I were in Key West, and we did a tour at the Hemingway house, and I thought it was super cool. I can totally recommend that if you're in the area. Specs and stats for A Farewell to Arms. It was first published in 1929. It is semi-autobiographical. This is the Hemingway Library Edition. I think it's got a pretty cool cover. It is fairly close to the original cover. The artwork is the same. Included is the author's 1948 introduction, early drafts, and at the end we have all 39 alternate endings. There is a foreword by his son, Patrick Hemingway, and another introduction by his grandson, Sean Hemingway. I have become a big fan of reading forewords and introductions to novels. Oftentimes, I think we can get a lot of information about the author and about the history and the context of the books when we're reading them, especially books like this. But we're going to discuss later on when we talk about my thoughts about the book, whether or not you should read those before or after you read the book. I listened to a large portion of this on Audible where it's narrated by John Slattery for 8 hours and 32 minutes. And he did a fantastic job with the accents and the pacing. If you like to listen to books, this one was great, and I could really recommend his version of that narration. And I did, after listening to each portion of the book that I listened to, I did also read the book. So I've read the entire book. Overall, big picture, this is a story about an American medic serving in the Italian army in World War I, where he is wounded and then falls in love with an English nurse. It's divided into 5 books. In book 1, it's pretty much the introductions to the setting and the war in which they find themselves. We meet Tenente Frederick Henry, who is the main character. He's Hemingway, sort of, kind of. Also Henry's fellow officers, the drivers, the priest, and his great friend, Surgeon Rinaldi. And of course, the nurse, Catherine Barclay. Henry falls for Catherine, is wounded in the shelling, and sent to the hospital. Book 2, Frederick is still in the hospital, and he's visited by Rinaldi and the priest, and then he's transferred to a hospital in Milan. Catherine also gets transferred to the same hospital, and then it's game on. Book 2 is really about the growing love and passion between Frederick and Catherine. Frederick, he has issues with some of the other nurses. He and Catherine go boating, and then Catherine, she gets pregnant. The final 3 books in the book, they detail Frederick's return to the front of the war. And there's been a shift in the feeling of the war from when he was first there, then got wounded, and then was sent back to the front. There's been like a growing despair among the other officers and the soldiers. Like, when will the war, if it will, ever end? Somewhat accidentally, or in order to not get shot, Frederick, he goes AWOL. He takes a ride in a river without a boat. He takes a ride on a train without a ticket. He reconnects with the pregnant Catherine. They escape together to Switzerland. Okay, that is a very quick synopsis of A Farewell to Arms. And it does not begin to describe the depth contained within these pages. And also, unlike Sean Hemingway's introduction, it doesn't spoil the book. And that's the first thing that we're going to discuss. I do think you should read the introductions and the foreword after having read the book. So if you're familiar with the story already, or it's a reread, or you're just a psychopath, then go ahead and read those before. But if not, you should read them after. I'm a big believer in the reread. I reread a ton of books because I love them, and it can be amazing. It can really, I read Faulkner, The Sound and the Fury, and I just loathe that book. I thought it was the worst book I've ever read, except Ulysses. But then I reread it again, and I listened to it all the way through and read it again, and it just became an amazing book. And I reread a bunch of books, but sometimes for some stories, especially that first read through without any knowledge of what you're getting yourself into, it can be amazing. And Sean Hemingway, you spoiled that for me, damn it. My wife, Mrs. Captain, she also read, or she listened to, the audible version of A Farewell to Arms. And I think she had the same reaction that everyone who reads Hemingway for the first time kind of has. You're surprised at the tight, sparse prose, the lack of descriptors. I do think that she enjoyed reading the book, despite the fact that when she finished listening to it that first time, she was like, "This book sucks." She was like, just couldn't go on about how awful the book was. But I think, without spoiling it was the ending. And if you ever read this book and you watch someone who was finishing the book, I was just watching her face as she was finishing it, and I just knew. I knew she was going to hate it. I think that Hemingway, having been a journalist, that greatly influenced his writing style. He's lean, he's hard, he's fast, he's realistic, he tells you like it is and lets you interpret it how you will. This style, it's in full force in A Farewell to Arms because Hemingway, he was there. He was in the war. He was driving the ambulance. He was wounded. He fell in love with the girl. I think A Farewell to Arms, it is a mandatory read. If I was going to rank the 3 Hemingways that I've read so far, number 3 would be For Whom the Bell Tolls. Number 2 for me is going to be A Farewell to Arms. I just had such a wonderful experience with The Sun Also Rises. I will say it's been a couple of years, at least, since I've read The Sun Also Rises. So I'm going to add this to my reading list in 2026 to reread The Sun Also Rises. And as a side point, just totally side point, stepping out of the review, this is a much more beautiful, I don't know how English is. This is a much better printing of The Sun Also Rises than the original one that I had bought from Amazon. When I bought these books, originally I bought 52 books like in a 2-week time span. So I was kind of rushed buying books. And oftentimes when you buy books offline, you want to make sure it's not a print-on-demand book, unless you just really don't care. I'm not like a book snob where I have like first editions and signs, stuff like that. But I also don't like crappy, and I have numerous ones of these because I bought them when I was initially buying my books. And my first copy of The Sun Also Rises was a print-on-demand book, and it just feels so cheap. This is just kind of just has a nicer feel to a nicer printing. And so just be wary of that when you're buying these older classic books. Oftentimes they're out of copyright, and so anyone can print them. And they do in their basement, and you get some crappy, glued together, crappy book. Okay, back into the review. You know, I think of the writers of his generation, and we'll talk about 3, right? Contemporaries. Fitzgerald, Faulkner, and Hemingway. And I enjoy all of these guys now. At first I thought Faulkner was the worst, but he's grown in my esteem. But for me, I really appreciate all of them. But I'm a Hemingway kind of guy. I enjoy his writing style. I wept reading The Sun Also Rises. I also wept. I didn't weep it For Whom the Bell Tolls, but yeah, I mean, I really, really enjoy it, and I think it's great. I would love to know what your thoughts are with Hemingway specifically. Next year, I'm going to read The Sun Also Rises. I'm going to read another one as well. I don't know, The Old Man and the Sea or whatever. What do you think is the next book that I should read? Have you read these? What are your thoughts, especially about A Farewell to Arms? I think it's a mandatory read, and I'm glad to have it on my shelf, and I think that you should have it on yours as well. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you've enjoyed it, like it, it's free. Subscribe to see more of my content. Again, I talk about whiskey and books. For now, my friends, you know what to do. I hope you're reading something good, drinking something great, and wearing that damn hat. Cheers.